Houston. Houston, we have a problem. DJ Apollo has landed. I repeat, DJ Apollo has landed.
Hear me?
Well, greetings and salutations. You are listening to the Tales of Music and Film podcast. My name is Christian Taylor, and I personally want to thank you for clicking on today's episode. This marks the final episode for Season 11, Episode 10. So this is going to be a real exciting one, guys. So I'm going to be changing things up a little bit. I know I've been doing a lot of movie reviews recently with a couple of music albums in there, but today I want to change it up because I noticed that it's been a while, so I've done something like movie related, where we talk about a certain topic, right? This isn't, another film or TV show or a music album, review. This is going to be me sharing a story with you guys, so I thought it'd be cool. So this is movie related. I wanted to share with you all my story of putting together my very own Hollywood movie accurate costume. Now, I've been going to conventions ever since I was 16 years old. I've been going for 10 years now. And let me tell you, in all my travels, I have seen amazing cosplays that people have made. And that inspired me to want to make my own. And I thought about it. What is one character I've always wanted to have my own costume of? Like, I'm talking 100% top to bottom, screen accurate, everything. There is only one character I could think of, and this won't surprise you, Indiana Jones. Now, for any of you guys who have followed me throughout this, 2.5 year or 3 year journey of podcasting, actually, no, this year's going to be marked 4 years. Sheesh. Anyway, so yeah, I've been doing this show. The show's been around for 4 years now. But anyway, during all my time, of doing this show, I've always expressed my love for Indiana Jones. I mean, those movies are literally my childhood. I've covered all 5 of them on my channel. If you guys want to check them out, but Indies 1 through 4 have a very special place for me because I grew up with them. I got to see Kingdom of the Crystal Skull in theaters twice when it came out back in 2008, and that is, if not one of the highlights from my childhood, was getting to see my childhood hero on the big screen. I mean, guys, I can't put into words how exciting it was to be a kid in 2008. I mean, you just had to be there to understand. The hype for that film was through the roof. I mean, the Lego sets, like Indy was everywhere in 2008 when Crystal Skull came out. And I don't care what anybody says. That is a fantastic film. If you want to hear my thoughts about it, I'd recommend you go check out that recording. That was my very first movie review on this channel, so on the show anyway. That was a lot of fun. I've talked about it. I covered Raiders, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, and the newest one, Dial of Destiny. I've covered all 5 of them. And those films mean the absolute world to me. Though it's crazy. I mean, the other day it just really dawned on me. I mean, it's like I dress up like Indy with my daily outfits that I wear when I go to work. There's a brown leather jacket that I wear that looks very similar to the one he wore in the movies. Like I wear button shirts all the time. I have a shoulder bag that I use. It's a giant satchel post office looking bag that I used in 6th grade as my school bag, and I still have it. It's in amazing shape, and I take it with me to work. It has like my stuff in it, and I wear my fedora like every day. So yeah, Indy's outfit and the way he dressed in these films has left a huge impact on me. I didn't realize how big the impact was, so I looked at myself in the mirror recently, and I was like, oh wow, Indy's hit me a lot. His outfit has left a mark on me more than I realized, so that is what made me think, how cool would it be, to share my story with you all. So last year, I put together my full accurate Indiana Jones costume, and I was very inspired to do this because there is an Indiana Jones fan page that I follow on Facebook, and I go on there every once in a while, and I see all kinds of fans with these insane, screen accurate outfits, and I was like, you know what, I gotta get in on this. I gotta make my own too, And that year in April, I got my very first costume piece, and that was when it all started. You know, I'm like, okay, I already have this. I might as well get the rest of the outfit, but I'll get into that here in a minute. I feel like the first thing that I should do for you all is kind of give you a brief little history of Indiana Jones's costume, just to give you an idea of what we're going to be talking about here. So, we all know Indy's, classic outfit. His appearance. I mean, you can see the silhouette. You don't even need to see him physically. All you gotta do is see the silhouette and be like, "Yep, that's Indy." I mean, where do you? I mean, obviously, the first thing we have to mention is the fedora. It's probably, I would argue, it's probably the most famous hat in Hollywood history. I mean, like what other when you imagine walking up to someone being like, okay, name me one Hollywood hat. I guarantee you most people are going to say the Indy fedora. I mean, like, what other unique hat could you really think of? I mean, the only other hat that I can think of right now is the hat that Clint Eastwood wore in the Good and the Bad and the Ugly, Fistful of Dollars, and a Few Dollars More. The Man with No Name trilogy is what that's called, by the way. Clint wears the same outfit in all three of those films, but I mean, John Wayne, I mean, he wore a similar hat in a lot of his westerns, but I mean, there is something about the Indy fedora. It's just like, it is so famous. I mean, just to give you an idea, I mean, there's hat companies all over the world that make, insanely detailed, Indiana Jones hats, and I'll get to that here in a minute, but Indy's outfit is very iconic, and I mean it's so perfect. I mean it's in my view the coolest Hollywood outfit ever created. I mean it's so good. And so I'm gonna read off to you. So his outfit is he has his fedora, which is a Herbert Johnson poet made with rabbit fur felt. I'll get more into like hat making and stuff as we progress through the episode. So you have the hat. He wears a let's see here, a safari button shirt. It's that white button shirt that he wears. It's a safari one. He wears we all know his classic shoulder bag. It's a heavy duty canvas British MK 7 gas mask bag from it was a British made one, and I think I saw somewhere that there's an inaccuracy with this. Apparently, that bag didn't exist until the early 40s, I believe. But I mean, we can stretch our disbelief a little bit. I mean, maybe Indy, got an early model of it or something. I don't think that's a big deal, but anyway, he wears the bag, and his bag strap that's around his chest in every film, it changes color, and we'll get more into that too. He wears light brown trousers. He wears his boots are 405 almond work boots, which, fun fact, Harrison Ford was the one who chose those boots for the outfit because the almond 405 work boots, he wore those when he was a carpenter, so that was his recommendation for the shoes. And he got them from a shoe shop in California. Let's see here. For his pants belt, he wears a military style cotton web belt with a brass or steel metal buckle. And he wears a generic dark brown gun belt where he has his gun holster and his whip holster. And he has his gun in the holster. In the first two films, Raiders and Temple of Doom, it seems that he uses a Smith & Wesson revolver, a 6-shooter. In Last Crusade, it looks like he used a Webley pistol, which is also a 6-shooter. That gun was a little bigger. He briefly used a Browning handgun in Raiders of the Lost Ark. It makes 2 appearances. We see it being used during the bar shootout when he goes to see Marion. And we see it again when he's on the ship near the film when he's running back to get Marion, but the Nazis have already captured her. It only made 2 appearances, and we never see that handgun again after Raiders, which I think it would have been cool because in the bar scene, there is a very unique thing that he wore only in that scene, and that was a shoulder holster that he kept the Browning pistol in. We have one singular frame of him wearing it, and it's a behind the scenes photo where Harrison was practicing, for the fist fight in the bar, and he has the jacket off, and you can see the shoulder holster around his shoulders, and it's like a light brown color. And this is the only scene we see Indy use that holster. We never see it again in any of the future films, which personally, I think it would have been cool to bring that back in Dial of Destiny. To that way Indy could have had his gun hidden under his jacket. I think that would have been a cool thing to do for the fifth film, because it takes place in 1969. So obviously, times have changed. Indy can't carry a gun with him to public places anymore. But I feel like if they brought that shoulder holster back, that would have been a good way to explain, he hid it in his jacket. That would have been cool. But anyway, that's just my opinion on that. And regarding like what socks he wears, that one's kind of, it seemed to me in most films, it seems that he wore dark gray long socks. I saw somewhere someone said his socks were green in Temple of Doom, but we see them only once when he's sitting at the campfire with Short Round playing cards. There's this one shot where he's sitting down, his pants have come up a little bit on the ankle, and you can just briefly see his socks, and it looks like, the socks are green, but it's hard to tell. I personally believe that in most films his socks were gray, because I remember there was photos taken behind the scenes when they were shooting Dial of Destiny, and I saw this one photo of Harrison sitting on the steps waiting for the next shoot, and he was sitting there with most of the outfit on, with his sunglasses on, and his pants came up again. You could see the socks, and I could clearly tell that in that film they were long socks, and they were gray colored. Dark gray it looked like, so I decided to go with plain gray socks with my outfit, and I'll get more into that here in a minute. So hat, jacket. So the jacket he wears in the movies, it is a wested leather, brown leather jacket. And what's really cool about it, it's not really a heavy style jacket. It's really light. I remember recently I'd watched, so for any of you who grew up in the early 2000s, you'll know this. So I was a big Mythbusters fan. For me, when I was a little boy in the very early 2000s, Discovery Channel was the bomb, dude. I mean, Discovery Channel, you had Mythbusters, Dirty Jobs, and Deadliest Catch. I watched those shows a lot. And Ice Road Truckers was on there too. I watched that sometimes. Anyway, Adam Savage from Mythbusters, the guy with the glasses and blonde hair, he has his own YouTube channel now called Tested, which you can look up on YouTube. Anyway, I watch his YouTube channel sometimes, and a lot of his videos, he gets invited to this museum or this auction house where they auction off movie props, costume pieces, and stuff like that. And I remember in one of his episodes, he got to look at a Indiana Jones hat, and I believe the hat he got to look at was a Last Crusade one, and it was still in amazing shape. Then there was another episode where he got to check out a Temple of Doom stunt jacket that was a little damaged from the stunt guy who wore it from performing a stunt, and he got to check out a Last Crusade Safari button shirt that Harrison had worn for one of the scenes in that film. And Adam Savage said something that really stuck with me. He said that this whole costume was built to be very light, because Indy, you gotta remember, he goes to like the jungle, the desert, so they wanted the outfit to be lighter so that I guess he wouldn't be so hot in it. But I can tell you from personal experience, like, dude, that outfit's amazing to wear, but how he was able to wear that outfit in the desert and the jungle is a mystery to me. Like, guys, I've worn my full outfit a few times in spring kind of weather, and even then I was hot in it, Like, that outfit, it's a little layered, and you can get hot in that thing, like, really fast. But anyway, the outfit, the jacket is very thin, and my jacket's a Last Crusade one, which I'll get more into that here in a minute. So we covered, see, the hat, the jacket, the button shirt, the belts, the pants, the socks, we got the boots, we got the gun holster, whip holster, and his whip. Okay, so the last thing we need to mention here is his whip that he uses. So we all know Indy's prime weapon that we love to see him use is his bullwhip. Now, the bullwhip changes color as we progress through the movies. In the first movie, the bullwhip is a light brown color, and according to Google, the whip length pretty much stays the same in every film. According to Google, the whip is 10 feet long, but I've heard some people say that sometimes it ranges to 8 feet as well. Like my bullwhip, I got it from Todd's Costumes, which I'll get more into here in a little bit. But mine's a 10. Mine's a 10 one. People say in some shots it looks like it's 8. Sometimes it's 10. It kind of varies. But throughout the films, the color changes. So the first film, light brown. In Temple of Doom, it looked like the whip in that one was a darker brown, and then in Last Crusade, the whip looked like it was very dark brown, and then in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, they basically reused the same whip style and color as Last Crusade, and then it looked like, now in Dial of Destiny, the whip looked like it was a black color in that one. But we don't really get to see the whip that much in Dial of Destiny, unfortunately. I mean, we only get to see Indy use it, 2 times throughout the film. Then it's on his, whip's, holstered for the rest of the runtime. I really wish he could have gotten to use it more in that film. I feel like there were so many opportunities for them to use it, but the creators decided not to, which I think was a big mistake. But the few times we see it in the movie, it looked like it was black or a very dark brown color. I mean, you got to remember, they color graded the footage, so it's going to make things, I guess, it might make the colors look darker than they actually were when they were shooting it. Color grading, it changes the color of things, so sometimes when you're watching a movie, some things appear darker than they would, a darker color than they would have been, but it depends on the lighting. I mean, there's a whole list of things that go into it. Like something, the way some items are colored, like in the film, that doesn't mean they're like that in real life when they were filming it. I mean, it's complicated. Anyways, yeah, the whip changes color throughout the films. And while we're talking about that, so Indy's other pieces of his outfit, so the whip holster, for example, that kind of changes color too. In the first film, his holster for the whip seems to be a light brown color as well. See, Indy wears a brown utility belt. It's a generic gun belt he wears around his waist, where he has his gun holster on the right-hand side with his gun in it. And on the left-hand side, he has the whip holster and the whip attached to it. And he wears his military belt around his pants. The whip holster and the gun holster change shape every film. Well, they change color every film. Like in the first movie, like I said, the whip holster is a light brown. Then it looked like in Temple of Doom onward, it looked like the whip holster was a dark brown color for the rest of the films. I think the light colored brown one only made an appearance in Raiders. Anyway. And the gun holster, for example, that changes color too. It also changes design a lot too in the films. Like in the first one, his gun holster was a very light brown, and it didn't have a brass buckle behind it. And it was a very standard one. It looked very nice. In Temple of Doom, his gun holster was a completely different one. It was a World War I style looking one. It was black colored. And then in Last Crusade, his holster went back to a similar shape of the Raiders one, but this one was a very dark brown color. And I think the holster in that one in Last Crusade was bigger because the Webley pistol is significantly bigger than the Smith & Wesson revolver he used in the first 2 films. And then in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, like literally, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, like that whole outfit was basically Last Crusade on repeat. The only difference was that the hat was shaped differently, and then Indy was wearing his satchel bag outside the jacket instead of underneath it. Those are literally the only two differences. Other than that, the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull outfit's literally Last Crusade, reused. Anyway. And then he doesn't carry a gun in Dial of Destiny. In Dial of Destiny, Indy does not wear the utility belt or the gun holster. In that film, I guess the design team just decided to have him attach his whip holster to his pants belt. Which, guys, I've tried that. It's very uncomfortable. It tugs on the pants belt. It makes it move. And that's a lot of weight for a pants belt to handle. Like, the pants belt's not designed, to hold the whip holster. Like, the whip's heavy. It's made out of leather. The handle's pretty heavy, Like, you need that utility belt for it. I've tried it. It just doesn't work for me. You need that utility belt to hold it, So, I don't know what the big fuss was to why they were like, Indy cannot carry a gun. Even though he's literally carried one in the other films. Like, I don't get what the fuss was about, but anyway, that's just my opinion regarding that. And one last thing, another thing that changes color in the films is the bag strap for his bag that he wears. And so in the first film, his bag strap, he always wears it on the right hand side of his body, and it goes, over his chest, and the bag hangs on the left hand side of his body. And usually the bag rests right on the hip area. The bag kind of lowers a little bit throughout the films, but in Raiders the bag's kind of like waist height. There's a metal buckle in the middle of the strap that allows you to bring it up higher or lower if you want to, and that buckle's always centered on his chest in the first 4 films anyway. In Dial of Destiny, for some reason, they had him wear the bag backwards, it looked like, because if you look closely, you can see the buckle behind the jacket, So I don't know what made them think to do that, I don't know why they could have restrapped the bag so that the buckle was still on the front. I feel like that would have made the outfit look better, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, the actual bag strap itself changes color most films. In Raiders, again, it was a light brown color. In Temple of Doom, it looked like the bag strap in that film was black colored. And then in Last Crusade, the bag strap was a very dark brown, it looked like. Then, of course, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, same bag strap. And then in Dial of Destiny, they decided to bring back the light brown strap from Raiders, which I thought was a nice little touch, kind of bring that Raiders stuff back. So I believe that about wraps it on the Indiana Jones costume. Like, the button shirt, the pants, and his 405 work boots, I think those are the only 3 things that stay the same every film. The only thing is, so in the 5th film, Dial of Destiny, the Safari shirt, they changed it a little bit for some reason. In Dial of Destiny, the button shirt he wears, it didn't have these rectangular, rectangle that goes down the left and right hand side of the shirt, like on the shoulder areas. For some reason, the button shirt they used in Dial of Destiny didn't have that. But other than that, the shirt, the pants, and the 405 work boots stay the same, it looks like, every film. But other than that, everything else changes. For example, the jacket pretty much stays the same every film, in my opinion. It changes a little bit, not by much. I noticed in Raiders and Temple of Doom, his leather jacket, it's like a tight fit. It's an exact, size. And then in Last Crusade and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the jacket was really, I would say, a little more baggy on Harrison. There was a little more room for him to move around, which I thought looked better in my opinion. And then in Dial of Destiny, it looked like they kind of brought back that exact size thing where it wasn't as baggy and loose as it was in the 3rd and 4th film. But other than that, the jacket pretty much stays the same. The color and all that, I think it pretty much stays the same, in my opinion. So that pretty much wraps it up, I think, for the costume. I think one last thing I'll say. So the hat, for example, I'll say this: the hat changes every movie as well, and I don't know. I mean, it's kind of funny. I had to watch, YouTube videos. So a lot of this information that I'm sharing with you, I learned this from this great YouTuber called Retro Blasting. You can find him on YouTube. He looks like he's in his like mid 40s or something, and he did this really cool video breaking down Indiana Jones's costume. And that's where I'm getting most of my information from. He did a fantastic job, breaking it down. And I remember he did a very cool video once talking about the history of the hat and how it changed every film. Because I didn't notice that, Because, when you're a kid, you're just watching these for fun, like you don't really think about the costume that much, It's kind of crazy, going on this journey of learning the outfit and then really noticing how much it changed, from film to film. Little me, watching these as a kid, I thought the outfit, stayed the same every film, but that's not the case. There's small changes in each one. And the hat, this will be the last costume piece that I'll talk about. The hat is probably the most famous piece of the entire outfit. And it is by far the most expensive item I had to get for my outfit. Anyway, so the fedora was made by a hat company called Herbert Johnson. They're over in England. And they are a very famous fedora factory. Like, they have some Hollywood connections. I remember I saw somewhere that they make a Doctor Who hat in the 60s. And they made the fedoras for Raiders of the Lost Ark, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, and Dial of Destiny. And Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the fedoras were made by a man named Steve Delk, who had started his own hat company in the early 2000s. And his fedoras got so popular that Spielberg's team decided to choose him to make the hats for Indy 4. But all the other films, Herbert Johnson was that maker of the famous fedora. And I'll try not to bore you too much with it. I get really excited about this, talking about this. So I know this is really nerdy stuff, but I like talking about this. It's really cool. Anyway, the hat, it changes not so the hat, its big change really was from Raiders to Temple of Doom. After that, the hat pretty much stays the same throughout the rest of the films. So in Raiders, the hat was very floppy. And what I mean is, if you watch like any shots of like Indy like on a horse or when he's being dragged by the truck, the brim flops in the wind a lot. Because Herbert Johnson used this rabbit fur felt that wasn't really stiff. It allowed it to move a lot. And the Raiders hat is very, special to just Raiders. It's a very unique version. I mean, they never made it this way again after this film. So the hat, and Harrison always kind of wore it off center, which gave it, as the fan base calls it, the Raiders turn, where the hat is not evenly worn on the head. Harrison kind of, moved it a little more towards the left, giving it this uneven brim turn. The crown is the crown of the hat, it's nice, and in the front they gave it a really, tight pinch. It has a black ribbon around it, and the hat does get a little filthy, especially by the time they get to the desert scenes. It gets, sun stains on it, sweat stains, and a lot of, sand stains on it too. And apparently a lot of the fan base consider the Cairo version to be the most famous version of the hat. So, I mean, in the Indiana Jones, fan community, they consider the Raiders outfit to be, peak Indiana Jones costume. I think a lot of fans feel like the outfit got, quote, sloppier in the sequels, which I heavily disagree with, but that's just my opinion. I mean, I get it, it's the outfit he was wearing, when he was first introduced, so obviously that outfit is going to mean a lot to people, but I think the outfit got better by the time Last Crusade rolled around, but I'll get to that here in a minute. But the hat in the first film was a very lighter brown color with its unique brim shape. But then when it came time to do Temple of Doom, the hat changed a lot. Um, the Temple of Doom fedora no longer had that uneven brim turn. It was slightly smaller compared to the Raiders fedora, and the pinch on it in the front was nowhere near as tight as it was in Raiders. And they gave it a different brim. They folded the brim differently. The sides and back were folded up a little more. And then in Last Crusade, the hat kind of went a little Raiders-ish, again. The hat would kind of had the uneven brim turn again in some scenes, and they used a stiffer felt in the sequels where the brim no longer really flapped in the wind like it did in Raiders. And the Last Crusade hat was made with a darker rabbit fur felt as well, so the hat in the sequels got darker. What I'm trying to get at, after Raiders, the fedora, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and Dial of Destiny, the hat pretty much stayed the same in the sequels. They followed that same pattern. Herbert Johnson even said that when they were designing the Dial of Destiny hat, they used a Temple of Doom hat as like the roadmap for them to make the Dial of Destiny fedora. They gave the hat had a pretty similar style from Temple of Doom onward. The Raiders fedora is unique to just that movie. And also, the Indiana Jones's pants belt, that military-style web belt that I told you about. So in the first two films, his pants belt is a dark brown color. But then in Last Crusade, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and Dial of Destiny, it was this tan sand-colored web belt. And then, there's other things about the outfit that changes a little bit in the sequels too. Like in Last Crusade, Indy wore a black tie with his outfit for the first half of Last Crusade. And then in Dial of Destiny, they brought that tie back again. And then, like I said, in Dial of Destiny, he doesn't even wear a gun belt in that one, And he wears his bag on his left shoulder in Dial of Destiny instead of on the right shoulder, how he did in the other films. So it's just small little changes like that. So when you put all that together, along with, like in Temple of Doom, for example, for the second half of the film, he didn't wear his jacket at all, and his outfit gets torn to shreds, like when he's fighting, the big guy on that conveyor belt in Temple of Doom, the shirt gets torn up pretty bad, like I believe it was the right sleeve on it gets completely torn off of it, and then his pants gets a tear in the knee. Like, his gear in Temple of Doom gets put through the ringer in that one. I mean, his outfit gets really beat up in Temple of Doom. So, putting it all together, you have dozens of variations of the outfit at your disposal, for conventions. I've seen a lot of them. I've seen, people do the classic normal look that we're all used to. I remember when I went to C2E2 in Chicago last year, I actually met a guy who was doing the Cairo version of the outfit from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and he did a darn good job too. Like, his outfit was very detailed. Anyway, so yeah, there's all kinds of variations of the outfit that you can get. So for me, the first thing I was trying to figure out, so that now we're going to segue into me getting my costume pieces and my whole process of putting this outfit together. So the very first costume piece that I got that started this whole journey was my hat. Now, ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted a real Indiana Jones hat. I remember in my childhood, I wore this wool style fedora that I got at a sportsman's shop. I remember my family and I were on vacation, and we just happened to make a pit stop at this store. I can't remember the reason why. And I was walking around the hunting section, and I'm not kidding you, there was a hat shelf, and on that shelf, they had a wool Indiana Jones hat. Now, guys, I'm not kidding you. The minute I saw that, I'm like, Mom and Dad, I want this. Like, 8-year-old me refused to leave that building until they got it. And I was a little spoiled child. You know, my parents said, okay, this will be an early birthday present for you. And they bought it for me. Guys, I'm not kidding you. That hat was glued to my head from then on. I wore it all the time. And, you know, looking back, it was a very cheaply made hat. I still have it, by the way. It's really beat up. I abused the heck out of that thing when I was a kid. You know, it's in a little rough shape. Like, I remember there's a small tear on the front of the brim from all the times of me pulling it down. You know, like, I really wore that thing out. But, man, I'm going to keep that thing forever. It's a very treasured item from my childhood. Anyway, but I've always wanted to get, you know, the real thing. And I remember one time I had just randomly found, you know, the retro blasting video of him. So he did this really cool YouTube video where he was comparing the Herbert Johnson Raiders hat that's currently available on their website, and he was comparing it with the current Vintage Hats Raiders fedora. Comparing the two of them to decide which one do you think was better, and in his view, he thought that the Vintage hat was way better due to their attention to detail and with the amount of character they put into it. And it was literally like that video where I learned about Herbert Johnson. I never did learn when I was a kid, you know, who made the hat. In this video, I found the Herbert Johnson website, and then that was when, okay, I gotta get this hat, you know. And it wasn't cheap, guys. So this was back, you know, in very early. This was back in, I would say, January of 2025 was when I started, you know, debating, okay, which version of the hat do I want to get? Because on the Herbert Johnson website, they offer 3 versions of the Raiders fedora due to how famous it is. It's probably the most sold version of that hat. I guarantee it. I wouldn't be surprised. They offer 3 versions. So they have the regular version, which was the one he wore at the start of Raiders when he's trying to get the golden idol in that temple. You know, it's the normal shape one. It doesn't have the uneven brim turn, and then there's the one with the uneven brim turn that he wore for the rest of the film, and then they offer a third one that is specifically the way it was shaped during the Cairo scenes. And from what I can tell, the Cairo version of the Raiders hat, that seems, excuse me, to be the version that most fans like to get. Apparently, a lot of the fans think that the hat was at its absolute peak during the Cairo scenes in Raiders of the Lost Ark. But for me, you know, it's like, I don't know if this is probably gonna be a very controversial take here, but for me, I wasn't a big fan of the Raiders fedora or the outfit, to tell you the truth. The Raiders hat, you know, I get it, it's cool, but I think they made it look a little too worn out. I mean, there's some scenes in Raiders, especially in Cairo, the hat looks like it's entering, like, hobo territory. It looks really old, worn out, like a little too worn out, you know, like it looked really out of shape, and it looked like it needed refurbishing, you know? I wasn't really a big fan of the Raiders hat. You know, I think the hat got better in the sequels, in my opinion. I think the best version of the hat, in my opinion, was Last Crusade. Now, I know a lot of the fans are going to burn me at the stake, you know, for saying this. Because it looks like in the Indiana Jones community, it seems that a lot of fans think that the Last Crusade hat is the worst version of the hat. Now, look, I'll be honest. Yes, there are a few scenes in Last Crusade where the hat was in really rough shape. What's funny is, if you watch, like, you know, if you watch the first 3 original films, you can kind of tell, like, what they shot first versus what was shot, you know, near the end, because the hat would shrink. As Rabbit Fur Felt, my uncle told me this, my Uncle Dave, he told me that rabbit fur felt shrinks when it gets wet, you know, so obviously the hat, you know, you gotta remember, they wore it in Raiders out in the desert, it got squished, it got sweated in repeatedly from all the stunt guys wearing it, so, like, the hat got beat up, you know, pretty much in every film. It got soaked. There's scenes of Harrison jumping, you know, in the river or when he's on that ship in Last Crusade, the hat gets completely soaked, you know, so obviously it's going to shrink a little bit. Anyway, in Temple of Doom, for example, if you pay attention, when him, Willie, and Short Round are on the plane, you can see the hat is a lot smaller in that scene versus how it was bigger in like the Sri Lanka stuff when they got to that village. That's because the plane scene of them jumping out in the raft, that was like one of the last things they shot during production. So obviously near the end of production, the hat was, you know, put through the ringer, you know, it's been beat up, sweated in, you know, it's in rough shape, you know, so, and it's a lot smaller in the plane scene versus how it was, you know, in the later in the picture. And if you watch Last Crusade, the same thing happened again. If you pay attention to the fedora that Harrison's wearing when he's getting ready to start the trials of getting to the Holy Grail, the hat is a lot smaller in that versus how it looked, you know, during, like, at the start of the film when they go to Venice, you know, like, the hat had this cowboy curl going on with the brim. The sides were folded up a lot more compared to how it was in the previous films. So yeah, the hat shrunk, you know, and there's some scenes in Last Crusade, I get it, the hat looked pretty rough. Like I said, the scene of Indy walking up the steps to start the trials to get to the Holy Grail, the hat looked pretty bad in that one. It didn't look good shaped. You know, it shrunk. You know, it didn't look that great. And that beach sequence with Harrison and Sean Connery, when Indy's dad pulls the umbrella out to scare the seagulls, they fly up, you know, to into that other Nazi plane shooting at them. The hat looked pretty rough, I think, during that scene as well. It had like this, like the crown had like this mushroom effect going on. It didn't look that great. You know, the brim had no shape or character in it whatsoever. It looked very plain, so I get it. There are some scenes in Last Crusade where the hat did look a little rough, but I would argue, I think all 5 films have scenes where the hat is shown in a very negative light. That's a theme in all of them, you know? But for me, I think the hat was at its absolute peak during the tank chase in Last Crusade. So when I started the journey of getting my hat, I remember I made a Facebook post like, okay, guys, I need your help. Here's the Raiders, Temple of Doom, Last Crusade, and Dial of Destiny hats. Which one should I get? So I had like a voting system going on, and most people picked the Last Crusade hat. I remember one girl I went to high school with, I commented on my post saying that she liked the Last Crusade fedora because of the darker brown, you know, felt they used for it. And I agreed with her, you know, because my favorite Indiana Jones film is Last Crusade. I think that is the best movie out of the 5 films, and I connect to it the most. I think that movie had, like, the best action sequences, one of the best stories, in my opinion, with Indy reconnecting with his father. You know, like, that one was very special. You know, it's an absolute thrill ride. You know, like, it's great, very good movie. So after it was finished, I'm like, okay, I have to get the Crusade Poet. You know, so Herbert Johnson called their fedoras poets. Anyway, so I decided to go with the Last Crusade hat. But then when I messaged them so it's a long process of getting your hat ordered. There's some things you have to do. So when I first the first time I messaged them, I was like, "Hi, my name is Christian Taylor. I'm a big Indiana Jones fan. I grew up with the films. They are my childhood. I was wanting to order a hat from you guys." And the people there at Herbert Johnson, they're all very nice. They're very professional. They're very to the point. They'll answer any question you have. And when I began the process, I said, okay, I want to get the Last Crusade Poet. They said, okay, can you send us your hat measurements? And I was like, okay. So the next thing I had to do was my mother measured my head, and I measured a 62.5 centimeters. And when I got back to Herbert Johnson, they had told me that the highest hat they offer is 61 centimeters. They don't go past that. Because it seems like most people, their heads range. So on the Herbert Johnson website, their sizes start at 57 centimeters and they stop at 61. And that seems, I guess, a 61 centimeter, like that region, seems to be the most common, like, head size, I guess. But I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people who have heads bigger than 61 centimeters, you know? But my head went past their size chart. Then I'm thinking, oh no, like I can't get a hat from them. But they had told me that they had recently started doing custom made orders, which means if you're willing to pay an additional $50, they can make a hat, to your head size. And what's cool is this opened the opportunity for me. Now I can have my hat shaped any way I want it, because had my head been in their centimeter range, they would have just given me their standard Last Crusade poet. So, like I was saying, on the website, they offer 3 versions of the Raiders hat, then they offer one standard Temple of Doom hat, then they offer one standard Last Crusade hat, and one standard Dial of Destiny hat. And you have the option of either getting your hat made with rabbit fur felt, which is what the hats in the films are made out of, or if you're willing to spend an additional like $300, you can get your hat made with beaver felt. And apparently my grandfather told me that beaver is more tough and that it doesn't really shrink when it gets wet. And so I decided to stay true to the films and go with the rabbit fur felt because I wanted that authenticity, me and my big nerd brain. So I decided, okay, how do I want this hat to be shaped? And I sent them in my email confirming my order. I told them, my address, my phone number, my email, my hat size, the whole thing. And the last thing I attached to my email, it was a picture. It was one of the promotional photos they took of Harrison while they were filming, and it was him in his outfit leaning against the tank. So obviously they had shot that, during that they took that photo of him during the tank, sequence shoot, and I really adored in that photo how beautiful the hat looked. And I'm like, that's it. I want mine to look like that. So I attached that photo to my email and I sent it to them. And I have to give a huge shout out to my father. His name is Clark Taylor, and this wouldn't have happened without him. When I was explaining to him, like, Dad, should I do this? Because guys, these hats at the time were $400 per hat, and if you add the shipping fee, that additional $50 I had to pay, I paid $600 for that hat. That's insane. Like, that's an entire work check almost for me for one of my jobs. So it's like that's almost an entire check's worth right there. And I told Dad, I'm telling him, it's like, Dad, should I go through with this? He's like, son, do you really want this? And I said, yes, absolutely. He's like, then get it, and he helped me buy it, he helped me get it ordered, and everything. This wouldn't have happened without my father. I owe him, the biggest thank you ever. I can never say thank you enough to him for helping me make this dream come true. I can never thank him enough. He helped me order the hat, and then it showed up about a couple of months later in this beautiful box. So guys, I'll never forget the day that my hat showed up in the mail. And I remember opening it for the first time. It came in this beautiful white box. Like, you popped the sides out and you opened it kind of like a suitcase, and I kept the box. This is the most beautiful box I've ever seen in my life. It's beautiful, and inside the hat was upside down with this plastic cushion around it so that it wouldn't get crushed while it was being shipped over here from England. I'll never forget pulling that hat out of the box. It was beautiful. Whoever it was at the company who was put in charge of shaping my hat, you knocked it out of the ballpark, my friend. It is so perfect. I can't even put into words. It was better than I thought it was going to be. And it's specific, so it's shaped how it looked during the tank chase when Indy's on his black horse, then him jumping on the tank, fighting Nazis on the tank. The hat is shaped how it looked during that particular scene. And this hat just has so much character to it. The beautiful, brown color. I mean, I wear this fedora almost every day. Like, it is a part of my daily attire now. It is the most beautiful hat I have ever seen in my life, and it is one of my most treasured pieces. And I can't tell you like how honored I am, to have it. It's just wow, man. It's just it's hard to explain, guys. I mean, it's breathtaking. So after I got, this hat, it dawned on me, why not just put the whole outfit together? So I started thinking, do I want to get the whole thing or just get certain pieces? But then I'm like, no, like, if you're willing to do this, Christian, you gotta go all the way. Go big or go home. So I decided, okay, I'm putting together a full movie accurate version of this outfit. And since Last Crusade's my favorite film, I already had the hat. Obviously, I gotta do a Last Crusade version of the outfit. And that's what I did. So I started watching, videos of other YouTubers breaking down the costume. Retro Blasting did this other really cool video doing a breakdown of Indy's outfit and how it changed every film. And I owe Retro Blasting a huge thank you. He's the reason that I was able to do this with all the amazing information that he shared with me. That he shared with us, the community, to help us. He was a big, big help. And I have to give another shout out to the Facebook page that I follow. There's the Indiana Jones fan page that I follow on Facebook. These guys, everybody on that page, they were a huge help as well. I posted on there, several times asking, like, hey, where can I get a jacket? Where can I get the button shirt? Where can I get the bag? They were a huge help, for me. I wouldn't have completed this outfit without them. They were a huge help. But anyway, so putting the outfit together, so I learned that the jacket was made by a company called Wested Leather. And they have tons of Hollywood connections. Like, they made a lot of jackets for films over the years. They were the ones who made the jackets for Raiders, Temple of Doom, and Last Crusade. And they offer every version, all 5 jackets from every film is offered on their website. And I got the Legacy Last Crusade jacket from them. And when it showed up, so the jacket was the last costume piece that I got. Once I got the jacket, the outfit was finished. And the jacket's amazing. It's a brownish gray color, and it fits me exactly. My friend Dana, she's a great friend of mine. She was the one who measured me to get my jacket size. Because with Wested Leather, they need like your size and your back measurements to know, and they need your arm length as well, in order for the jacket to fit you perfectly. And Dana, huge thank you to her for taking my measurements. She was a huge help because I know nothing about measuring. Anyways, huge help from her. So I was looking at the jackets, and I realized that Wested Leather actually offers all pieces of the outfits. So I started with the small stuff first. Like the very first items, I still remember this. The first things I bought was the pants belts and the gun belt. I got those first, and then I got the pants. I got the shirt next. And then I got let's see here. I got the socks, and then I got the bag and the strap. And now keep in mind during this whole process, there were some slip ups along the way. Unfortunately, when you do a project like this, there's going to be some mess ups. Some of the costume pieces that I got from Wested Leather were not that great. For example, the gun holster they offer. I would recommend do not get a gun holster from Wested Leather. The one that I got, I thought it was great, but I only had it for like a week and then it started falling apart. The string they used to hold it together started snapping on me, and I spent like $50 on that thing. So, and I got the whip they offer, and it's not that great. I was very disappointed. I spent $70 on that whip, and it was not that great. It looked nothing how it did in the films. It looked like it was cheaply made. It looked like something you'd buy for a kid in a toy shop. The length was correct, but that's it. It just didn't look right. So that was like I spent that was like $150, wasted on bad costume pieces. But the button shirt they offer, the jacket, the trousers, the bag, the bag straps, those were great. Like I really, all those pieces are fantastic. So then it came time for me to get the boots. Now, this is when things started to get a little tricky. So Indy, as I said, wears 405 almond work boots. Now, if you go to the website to get yourself a brand new pair of almonds, you're looking at anywhere between $500 and $700, and my jaw literally dropped to the floor when I saw how expensive they were. I'm like, really? I just couldn't believe it. And I'm like, there is no way on this earth I'm going to spend that kind of money for a pair of boots that I'm only going to be wearing like maybe a few times a year to conventions. I'm like, there's got to be another way. And I decided to go on eBay, and I typed in 405 almond work boots. I scroll for a little bit, and I find this guy who's offering to sell these brand new pair of boots that, guys, I'm not kidding you, these boots are like 90% just like the almond work boots. They're like, the color was perfect, light brown, same shape. It looked pretty much the same. There's a few small differences, but they were it. And he was willing to sell them for $50. I bought those suckers instantly. And when they showed up, they are so perfect. They fit my feet perfectly. And they're like 90% close to the shoes that Harrison wore in the film. So that was a big save on my part. I'm so happy that I got those, And so yeah, that was a huge stroke of luck, for me. Another thing, when I bought my trousers from Wested Leather, I had to have some work done to them. When I bought them, they were way too tight, and they were squeezing my waist to the point where I could barely breathe, But Dana, again, Dana's a pro at this stuff. She sews stuff, and she was able to fix them for me so that they would fit me, and now they fit me perfectly. She had to move so the way these trousers are, there's a little clip that you have to hook on in order to to put them on, obviously, and then she was able to fix that, and there was a couple of small tears on the very bottom of the legs, so she was able to fix that too. Once she did those two things, the pants were perfect, and to this day, almost a year later, they're in great shape. But anyway, so yeah, another lucky save, that my friend Dana, she helped me with my jacket, she got my pants fixed up, so again, this wouldn't have happened without my friend Dana's help. And then I got the button shirt, like I said, and it's perfect. It's got the Wested Leather logo in it, and every time I look at that, it puts a big smile, on my face. And I'll never forget the jacket. I'll never forget opening it for the first time. I mean, guys, the smell You could just tell that it was brand new. Like, the smell of leather on that thing was absolutely insane. I mean, it just had that smell of brand new right out of the box. Like, it was I'll never forget that smell, you know? Since then, the jacket is bulletproof. I mean, it's in great shape. It has a couple. There's a scratch on the back. There's one scratch on the one of the sleeves or on the wrist area. But other than that, it's in great shape. Plus, the scratches add character to the jacket, so it only made it look better. You know. Uh, let's see here. And then, trying to think now. The tricky parts was trying to find a good whip holster, a whip, a gun holster, and getting a gun. Those four pieces of the outfit actually turned out to be one of the hardest items for me to get. The gun holster, for example, I got lucky. I went on Amazon and I'm looking around. You know, I kept looking up photos, like shots from Last Crusade, trying to get an exact color because the gun holster changes shape a little bit in Last Crusade. It's a darker brown, like a chocolate color. And I'm trying to scroll through Amazon, trying to find one that matches these things. And then finally, I found this gun holster on Amazon, and it was exactly just like the one Harrison used in Last Crusade. And I managed to buy that for about $40 something. And when it showed up, it was beautiful. It was exactly what I was looking for. And then it was time for me to get the gun. So obviously, like I said, he carries a Webley in Last Crusade, and I'm like, I looked on Amazon, eBay. I went on eBay. I'm like, surely somebody has had to have made an airsoft gun version of that pistol. And lo and behold, I found one on eBay. It's an airsoft pistol, same shape, made out of metal. It looks very similar to the one that Harrison used in the film, so I bought that. Now, it was $100. I have never spent that much money on a costume piece, in my life. And when this gun showed up, I mean, this thing was worth, every cent. The detail on this airsoft pistol is absolutely insane. If the orange tip was not on that barrel, you would have thought it was a real gun. I mean, this thing is beautiful. And the whip holster I got from Blessed Leather, and it's good too. My only complaint about it hangs real low when you attach it to the belt. But anyway, one of the last pieces, aside from the jacket, was the bullwhip. To be honest with you guys, I didn't think I was ever going to be able to get a bullwhip, so the Indiana Jones bullwhips, the first three films, they were made by a man named David Morgan, and his company is still going to this very day, and he passed away in the 90s, I believe, but his company still goes, and apparently at the time in the 90s, so when the costume pieces thing started to get really big in the 90s, when the internet started coming around, people started ordering bullwhips from David Morgan, and apparently at the time, fans said when they got them, they were all Last Crusade style bullwhips, because that was the last film that he had worked on at the time, and he tried making the whips better in the sequels, with their color, the way they were designed. So if you wanted a Raiders whip, he refused to make it because he didn't want to go backwards with his craft. So you could no longer get a Raider style bullwhip or Temple of Doom. Your only option was a Last Crusade one. So I'm trying to figure out. So on the David Morgan website, if you go there, it's $1,500 for a brand new bullwhip off of there. So immediately I'm like, nope, that's not happening ever. There is no way on this planet that I'm buying no way. And I'm thinking, surely there's got to be a good, detailed bullwhip out there that's not gonna that's not gonna put me in financial debt. There's gotta be something. So I went back on Indiana Jones, Facebook page, and I'm like, guys, is there anywhere I can go to get a good bullwhip that's not so insanely expensive. And this one gentleman told me to check out a website called Todd's Costumes. And I go on there. They offer a brand new bullwhip, exactly like the ones that Harrison would have used in Raiders, in the same light brown color. Or you can get it in the 8 or 10 inch, 8 or 10 feet, one. I got the 10. I thought the 10 feet one looked better in my opinion. So I got that one for $250. That was one of the last costume pieces. Once that and the jacket showed up, the outfit was 100%, completed. Like I said, I got the trousers, the gun belt, the pants belt, and the button shirt, and the jacket. I got all those items from the Wested Leather website. Those pieces are good. Just don't get the whip or the gun holster off of there. There's better options. And Todd's Costumes also offers, the Raiders jacket, the Raiders gun holster, the Raiders whip holster, and the Raiders bag strap. Since then, I have bought the bag strap, the gun holster, the whip holster. I got all those things. Like, they offer, like, the products on the Todd's Costumes website are breathtaking. If you guys want to get, good Indiana Jones costume pieces, get the whip and stuff from them. Like, their pieces are beautiful. You'll save yourself a lot of money. Like, go to Todd's Costumes. Their pieces are second to none. They're AAA quality. Guys, I'm telling you right now, when the outfit was complete, I will never forget putting the outfit on for the first time and looking at myself in the mirror. I had just completed a childhood project that I've wanted to do ever since I saw the films for the first time when I was 7 years old on VHS tape. When I put that outfit on, I didn't want to take it off. I mean, I wanted to cry. I mean, it's just like, I waited, like 15 plus years to do this, and here I am. I did it, and I was just so happy. And I wore my outfit for the very first time. I took it to its first convention this past October. I took my friend Billy and me to GalaxyCon in St. Louis. It was a brand new con, and that was the first year it opened. And I wore my Last Crusade outfit to that convention, and I got a lot of nice comments from people. And I remember posting my photos from there on the Indiana Jones, Facebook page, and I got dozens and dozens of comments from people telling me how good my gear was, and it made me happy. I love being a part of the Indiana Jones, fan community. I haven't had really any negative experiences. Every person that I've met in the fan community have all been very nice people, and I wouldn't have gotten my outfit finished without their amazing help. So I wore the outfit for the first time to that convention, and it was great. I had a lot of fun wearing it. It fit me like a glove. I was never uncomfortable at any point. It was great. I guess the only negative thing I will say, I got a little hot in it sometimes, and one thing that drives me crazy, I wonder if this is common with a lot of Indiana Jones cosplayers, the whip refuses to stay in the holster for me. The handle keeps falling down out of the holster. Like, I remember I had to use zip ties. I had to buy me a pack of zip ties, and I had to tie my whip together, because that was the only thing that I could think of at the time to keep the darn thing in the whip holster. And I later learned that during all the fight scenes in the films, they did that same concept. They used zip ties to keep the whip in the holster so that it wouldn't fall out, obviously, when he was fighting people, because that would have looked a little silly. So it's kind of funny that I did that, and I didn't know that they did that in the films. But yeah, that's the one complaint about the whip. It just will not stay in the holster. It's really annoying. But there were so many times I was on the convention floor, I kept having to readjust it because the handle kept falling down. But that's it. other than that, the outfit's amazing. And then another thing that I did around November, the following month, I have a great friend. Her name is Catlin, and she's a photographer here in my town. And I've known her for quite a while, almost a decade at this point. She took my senior pictures when I was graduating high school. And she's one of the nicest ladies that I've ever met in my life. Like her husband, her son and daughter, they're some of the nicest people I've ever met. I'm honored to know them and call them my friends. But I had Catlin do a professional photo shoot of me in my Indiana Jones costume, and she made these beautiful backgrounds. Like, she took pictures of me in my costume standing in front of a green screen, and she was able to digitally put me in like a temple background, a desert background, a jungle background, and they were magnificent, and we took more, and I'm still waiting on her to finish the others. I did this really cool photo of me holding, so I bought this really cool prop from GalaxyCon. It's a replica of the ring from Lord of the Rings. And the detail on it is absolutely insane. It looks like I stole it off the movie set. Anyway, I took this cool photo of me holding it with this look in my face, and I told Catlin, please put a volcano background behind me, like with like fire, because my best friend Jonathan and his siblings, they're big Lord of the Ring fans. So I wanted to do that as like a joke. So I'm really hoping that she gets that photo finished. I can't wait to see what it'll look like. But when those photos were taken, that sealed the deal for me. It was worth all that money I spent. Like, this outfit's amazing. I will be wearing this to conventions for the rest of my life. Like, this outfit is breathtaking, and I am very happy that I was given the opportunity, to do this. Like, it was a fun time. I learned a lot of cool stuff along the way, and it's just hard to believe that I did that. It felt like the right time. I didn't want to wait. I'm single. I'm still living at home with my family. And I'm working. 3 really good paying jobs. It's like it felt like now was the time to do it. And I'm glad that I did, because kind of find out, a few months after that I had bought my Herbert Johnson poet, they brought their prices up. If you want a rabbit fur felt fedora from them, it's $700 now instead of $400. Had I waited just a little longer, I wouldn't have been able to get my Indiana Jones hat from Herbert Johnson. So I got it at just the right time. Like, thank goodness I did that. I cut it close, man. But yeah, so that's the journey of me putting my outfit together. And very recently I did something else pretty cool. I got me a couple of other costume pieces. So here's some more trivia for you. So Harrison Ford actually came back to play Indy again after Last Crusade. So for any of you who don't know, after Last Crusade came out, George Lucas produced this TV show called Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. It only ran for 2 seasons, unfortunately. I believe it was canceled because of how expensive it was to make. It was like, these episodes were like movie style budgets, and I guess they just weren't making enough money to continue. It only ran for 2 seasons, but in season 2, Harrison Ford makes his one and only appearance in that show, and the episode was called Mystery of the Blues, and this episode was filmed around the same time that he was filming The Fugitive. When we see him in that episode, his hair is a little longer, he has a small beard going on, and he had to keep that because his character has those things in The Fugitive. Anyway, so this is around 1991, just a few years after they had filmed Last Crusade. In that episode, he pretty much wears the Last Crusade outfit again, but there's 2 additions to the costume in that. He wears this light brown cardigan vest, and he wears this tan colored scarf around his neck because he's with a Native American friend of his, and they're in a winter area, so he's bundled up more to stay warm. And I got the cardigan and the scarf, and now I can do a Mystery of the Blues cosplay. So now there's 3 versions of the outfit that I can do now. I can do Last Crusade, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and the Mystery of the Blues outfit. So that's very cool. So now I can change my outfit 3 different ways. So that's very cool. And also, very recently, I ordered another fedora from a hat company called Steele & Jones. Now, for any of you who don't know, there are all kinds of hat companies that make, Indiana Jones style hats to the same quality as Herbert Johnson. Like I said, there's Advantage hats. So, obviously, for me, one fedora is not going to be enough. I wanted to get another one. And when I found out that Herbert Johnson had brought their prices up, I realized, okay, I gotta look somewhere else. I knew that Retro Blasting had mentioned Advantage hats, so I went to them. But unfortunately, the guy who runs it told me that he doesn't do, head sizes above 61 centimeters. He doesn't do the custom order option like Herbert Johnson does, so I couldn't get a Advantage hat, unfortunately. And I was really bummed about that because his hats look absolutely incredible. Like, the fan base, have really hyped up, his hats for me. So it was really disappointing I couldn't get one from him. After him, I went to Penman Hats, and his hats are breathtaking. So Penman Hats actually own Steve Delk's hat equipment that he used. Steve Delk apparently had donated all of his gear to Penman Hats when he retired. And Penman uses the same hat blocks he would have used to make the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull hat if you order that one from Penman. They offer every version of the hat but the Dial of Destiny one. And with Penman, unfortunately, I decided not to get a hat from that company because I just felt they were a little expensive, and I wanted to look at other options, so I decided not to do Penman. And then the next one I went to was Screen Capped hats. And when I saw the prices, his hats were a lot cheaper compared to, Penman, Advantage, and Herbert Johnson. His hats were a lot cheaper. But unfortunately, again, just like Advantage, he didn't offer hats above 61 centimeters. But then he had messaged me and said, I recommend you check out Steele & Jones. And that was a company that I had also learned about through the Indiana Jones hat community. And I went on their website. Their hats were only, they were around, I think it was like $350 or something like that. And it was way cheaper than the other hat companies. And I contacted them, and they told me that they do hats up to 64 centimeters. And I'm like, finally, I hit the gold mine. I mean, they offer the same quality hats, way less price, with amazing detail, and they do my hat size. So I finally found myself another opportunity to get a beautiful detailed hat. But I was stuck on which one to get. So on Steele & Jones, they offer every version of the hat except, again, Dial of Destiny. Originally, I wanted to get the Dial of Destiny Poet. I thought the hat in that one was very beautiful. I like how in that one they used a lighter brown ribbon color. But I couldn't get the Dial of Destiny hat, so I almost decided to get the Temple of Doom hat. But when I was showing my parents, the hats, they told me, son, the Temple of Doom hat's it looks exactly like your Herbert Johnson. Why not get something different? If you're willing to pay that kind of money, why not get something very different? And I thought about it, and I'm like, you guys are right. And there was another hat on the website that grabbed my attention. It was this beautiful gray fedora that Harrison wore in Kingdom of the Crystal Skull when he was getting on the train, and we see him, with it when him and Mutt are having that meeting at that diner. And that hat just looked so beautiful, and that hat actually makes another appearance in Raiders of the Lost Ark when Indy's getting on the plane to fly to where Marion's bar is. And in the Indiana Jones fan community, they call it the travel hat. He wore it with this beautiful blue 30s, business suit. Um, and that hat only makes an appearance in Raiders. And then it was kind of cool to finally see a version of that hat, come back again and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And this hat, it's the same shape and style as the Indiana Jones hat. The only difference is, it's all gray with a very dark, black ribbon. And I sat back and thought about it, I want to get this one. So I decided to get the 1957, train station hat, as I call it. And Steele and Jones, those guys are super nice, and we messaged back and forth, for a good, month or two, trying to get it all figured out, sent them my hat measurements, and they were very patient with me. They answered every question I had. They were very professional, just like Herbert Johnson. Guys, I'm telling you right now, if you want to get yourself a good, detailed Indiana Jones hat for a way good price, go to Steele and Jones. They also offer the jackets. They have a link on their website where you can get, each version movie jacket. And I watched an unboxing video of their jackets, and they are extremely beautiful and detailed. So if you want to get a good hat and a good jacket, go to Steele and Jones. They are a very good company, run by very nice guys. It's a great place to get your hat from. And I ordered it. Let's see, I ordered the hat, I think in very early January, and the wait time, from what I understand, it varies. Sometimes it could take a few months, maybe 3 months, 90 days overall, so it varies, so I don't know, it's been about, I would say, 40-something, I would say at least 40-something days since I ordered mine. I haven't gotten a confirmation email yet that it's finished. So that's one of the hardest things about putting this outfit together. It's like the waiting for the costume pieces to show up. It feels like an eternity. It's like what Tom Petty said once. The waiting's the hardest part. Like, yeah, very true words. It's like just waiting for these pieces. It's hard, especially the hat. I love fedoras, I've loved fedoras ever since I was a kid. My dad raised me and my brother on the Three Stooges. I've watched every short, pretty much, and a lot of their episodes in the 30s and 40s featured them walking down, city streets, and you could see the men walking around with these beautiful business suits, with these beautiful fedoras, young me very much fell in love, with the 40s style of how men dressed, Like, someday in my life, I want to get me a 40s or a 30s style business suit. I want one so bad. But I cannot wait for this gray fedora to show up, I've wanted this hat ever since I was a kid. It's kind of funny. I actually remember watching Crystal Skull once when I was a kid, and I told my mom, Mom, one day I want to get that fedora. It's like almost 20 years later, the time has now come, and now in here, and hopefully in another month or so, I'll actually have that hat, physically with me, so that's absolutely crazy, to think about, but so yeah, I'm very excited for that hat. So that about wraps it up of me talking about the Indiana Jones costume and my in my journey of putting the outfit together. It was a fun one. Some mistakes were made. I spent way too much money on it, but it's like, if there's one thing I've learned, it's just money. You only live once. My dad said it best. It's like, son, you only live once. If you want to go out and do this, then go do it. Because you'll regret it if you don't. Because you could tell, how much this meant to me and how much I wanted to do it. So he really pushed me. I go put it together, So I owe a huge thank you to both my parents for supporting me with doing this, And it was just an absolute amazing experience that I'll never forget, It was great. I'll never forget, doing this. it's just I'm very passionate about it, you know, and I love talking about it. So it's really cool for the first time being able to share this story with you. So I hope you really enjoyed this. I hope you learned something, you know, really cool. And I just want to take a minute, you know, this wraps up, you know, 11 full seasons of Tales in Music and Film, you know, 110 episodes. You know, it's completely mind blowing to me that I've done over 100 episodes. You know, it's crazy. And I personally want to thank you listening for listening to my show. It means the absolute world to me. I just want to say thank you for your support. I hope you learned something cool. I hope this gave you some joy. If there's one person getting joy from my show, then I'm doing my job right. You know, so I hope you guys are all doing extremely well. I hope life's treating you well, and I hope, you know, that you're thriving at whatever it is you're doing. You know, keep living life to the fullest. Keep working hard. You know, spread love and positivity whenever you can. You know, we're all human beings on this planet. We all got to help each other out because what else are we gonna do? You know, we got to look out for one another. We're all human beings living on this beautiful island in the middle of the universe. You know, we're all humans. We gotta help. We gotta love each other. We gotta help each other out. You know, so being able to share this, you know, story with you, it's a true honor. I hope you enjoyed it. So until next time, my name is Christian Taylor, and you are listening to the Tales of Music and Film.